Good afternoon. We'd like to welcome Jordan Spieth to the interview room at the Tour Championship. Jordan, you're the 2015 FedEx Cup champion, a former champion at the Tour Championship. So just talk about your excitement to be back here this week at a course that you've got some great history at.
Yeah, I think I speak for all the players when you say that when you're at East Lake, it essentially verifies that you either have had a really good season or you've turned it on and played really well in the playoffs. And either way, that's really solid. So I'm happy to be back here. I wish I was starting, a little closer to the lead, but didn't quite have the last. I started to play a little better each day as the last couple weeks went on, but the way the format is, go out there and try and get off to a really hot start, and then see where things are at, and hopefully you can start to, have a chance to make a run at it. So it seems to be set up to where you believe no matter where you sit when you start this event that you can win the FedEx Cup, and I think that sitting in, I don't know what I'm at, the 17th or 18th position, that's obviously great. If I was at number one, I'd be like, well, I think it's easier from the old way. So given my situation this week where I stand currently, I'm excited to go out there on one of my favorite tracks that we play all year and get started.
Before we open up to questions, just touch on your season a little bit. You've had a great season, a win at the RBC Heritage and 6 top 10. So how does that play into your mindset and your confidence going into this week?
Yeah, it was a good season. I struck the ball really well. I made some strides in that department, and I didn't have my best putting year, but I've been stroking it really well as of late, without kind of the results coming from it. So that's always a good sign for me. I feel good about, for me now, it's always about getting better each day, making a bit of progress, and I feel really good about the state of my game. It's just, is it going to be these 4 days, or am I just going to continue to get better, as we head into next year? But, I wish I would have liked a little bit more consistency, but that just came down to making putts this year. And I've put in a lot of work now over the last couple months on it, and starting to see a lot of results on the practice green and quite a bit on the course, and hopefully can make it rain this week. I feel like, once you start to see a few go in on greens that are this good in a small field where you don't have a lot of traction, I feel that I can possibly go out and get real streaky and pour it in. So hopefully that's the case.
We'll go ahead and open up to questions. Ron Green Jr.
Jordan, obviously Jay made a big announcement today. Just interested in your thoughts on the changes he announced and how you see that affecting the tour down the line.
Well, I think it's great. I think that to every single member of the PGA Tour, it's going to be really good as the details start to unfold and everything gets figured out. Most importantly, I think that players coming together to continue to want to make the PGA Tour better as in the ways that we're trying to figure out how to do so, I think is really the silver lining here. I think that we all wanted to we all wanted to make the product better, and so we wanted to get together to do that. With Tiger and Rory helping run the show, and I thought it was really great. I listened to Jay's remarks, and I feel like the PGA Tour has a lot of momentum right now. I feel like it's very, very forward-looking, and it feels like there's a lot of momentum with it.
Doug Ferguson.
Do we have today's announcement without Live Golf?
Well, I think certainly it's impossible to not think that was a catalyst for continuing to want to make sure that the players that we have on the PGA Tour now stay on the PGA Tour. Would this have gone that direction this soon? Maybe not, but to say that it wouldn't happen in general, I'm not sure. But I think that certainly has been a catalyst for for looking at the product as a whole and figuring out how to make it the best it could possibly be and maximize, the strength of fields at the biggest events.
I think I don't have your word specific, and several other players like it. About a year or so ago, was saying too that competition at the end of this, it's going to make it better. Is that what's happened?
I think that I think it's going to be. I think the PGA Tour, with what the remarks Jay made today and the proposed changes and, what changes come from that. And I think in general, it's just going to be in the best place it's ever been for a long time going forward. I don't even know if that leaves there to be much competition down the road. Personally, competition, I guess, is always good to help push each other. But I mean, I'd rather have the competition just be, us against what could possibly be better and better on the PGA Tour. Your competition is the best version of yourself, kind of thing, within the organization. So I think that would be best case scenario.
We'll go right here to Alan Shipnuck.
With the top players kind of consolidating around 20 events or so, do you worry about the rest of the schedule and how those events might struggle?
I don't. I think there's a lot of details to come on how not only every member will benefit from this, but also how the sponsors of these tournaments will continue to actually benefit from this. I think this is the tip of the iceberg in a way, where things are getting started in the right direction with a plan going forward. But I'm not. No, if you're asking about my concern, no. I think overall, every single member will benefit from this, and I think the tour as a whole will. And I believe that the sponsors and I would imagine pretty much all the tournaments will probably see, a better field, however many times it's going to happen. I'm not exactly sure how all that is quite going to work.
Now that you're a dad, do you see yourself playing more than 20 events a year?
I already have. This is no different. 20 weeks, to work 20 weeks. You work more than 20 weeks, don't you?
Sadly, yes.
Yeah. I don't think, I think that's the whole point, is that I'm trying to figure out where that number is, how to make sure that, it fits everybody's schedules so that we can continue to try and deliver the best product possible with the PGA Tour running the show to make it possible. I think that's including the majors when you say 20 events. So that's less events than I play right now. So I would be inclined to still play other events as well.
I'm sorry, one last question. Rory's been very outspoken out in front of all this. You seem to have taken a slightly lower profile. Are you happy that he's sort of emerged as a spokesperson and the rest of you guys don't have to do as much heavy lifting?
Honestly, as long as what we're setting out to get done gets done, it does not matter to me whatsoever. I'll be as useful as I'm wanted and as behind the scenes as I'm wanted. Like, to be honest with you, it's all about what's going to be best. And to be honest, I don't think it hurts for me to be a little bit more vocal going forward. So I may be so, but I'm kind of, I rolled off the PGA Tour board, and Rory took my spot, and therefore he's more in the middle of a lot of it. And then obviously having Tiger's influence that doesn't need to be explained. So he stepped into a position where he's more in the know with, a lot more knowledge on PGA Tour matters than even the members have, and his and Tiger's kind of leadership through the whole thing, but everyone's input has been what's really helped push this agenda forward and quickly.
Adam Shupak.
Just following up on that, along those lines, you typically play some events that aren't in that 20. Will you still play as Valero, Texas Open, Houston, a lot of the Texas events?
Well, I think every player a lot of times have, sponsors that take part in, whether they're the title sponsors or at any level of tour events, and therefore that's not going to change. And then I'm going to have to look at the schedule as a whole and see what's going to be best. I mean, my schedule I played this year was different than in 21, which was different in 20, which was different than 19. So this will, a lot of times the most frustrating part is trying to pick my schedule. I feel it's a luxury to be able to choose your schedule, but sometimes I wish it was chosen for me. And in this will choose the majority of it for me because I want to be where the best players in the world are playing. But I will still have other events. As I mentioned, I'm going to play more than 20 times because I love to play golf. I'm 29 and I'm healthy, and so I will be playing other events as well.
It was riveting listening to you and Michael think about how to play the shot last week on the 5th hole. Hindsight's 2020. I know it didn't work out well, but what's the aftermath of that? What did you think of what happened, and how did you guys?
I think if I had punched it out and laid up, I would have made a better score than I made. But I mean, at the position I was in the tournament, tied for the lead. I've been tied for the lead plenty of times in my career. I wasn't overreacting. I thought that I was going to explain everything I was thinking. He would explain what he was thinking, and if I, I'm the one that hits the shot, and so I told him this one's on me, and I didn't pull it off, and I walked to the green. I said, "Sorry, man. I mean, you were right. This one was on me." But when I tell him that, then he knows he's done everything that I normally want him to do to try and kind of put the yellow light or the red light on some of the crazy stuff I try and do sometimes. That one I felt like I could get 6 or 7 out of 10 balls onto the green, so I just hit it a little fat.
All right, we're going to go over to Bob does sports.
Bobby Fairways here on behalf of my colleague, Fat Perez. Hey, Jordan. Bob does sports here. Jordan, with everything that you've done for the game of golf, do you find it a little unreasonable that the tour does not allow you to have a breakfast ball off the first tee box?
I think I could name a dozen or so times where I really could have used it, and I think going forward it could be the difference.
Definitely something to think about, Jordan.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll come over here to Ryan Lavner, Golf Channel.
Jordan, some players have suggested that the tour changes are essentially copying the live model that many people had decried earlier. Do you think that that's a fair critique?
I think that I still see a lot of differences, don't you? I mean, it's 72 holes. I think that in general, in sports, it makes sense to try and get the more players in any sport that people want to watch. If you can get them playing at the same time in competition, it makes the most sense. I think the majors have the highest ratings with the Players' Championship, and then from there it drops significantly depending on if Tiger's playing or in contention somewhere. And the idea that as players we can collaborate and get together to produce a better product while having stiffer and better competition, I think that would be something that I think that's just something in general that makes a lot of sense. It'll create a better product for us going forward, and I don't believe that there's no teams. This is still PGA Tour golf. It's just trying to get. I think it's going to be way better for the fans. I mean, networks will be happier. I think, in general, we're going to try and get as many of the highest-ranked players that you can get all playing as often as they can together. And it just seems like that's the way things should have been all along. But it takes all the players getting together, and when you're able to pick your own schedule to outside of the 4 events everyone plays the players, and then the playoffs, what realistically, how often can we have this happen? And that's kind of, I think, what we're trying to settle on right now.
Thanks,
And then unrelated, if I can, you're a decade removed from being this guy, but do you have any issue potentially with like a young hotshot who's coming out of school gaining access to play against these top players in the world in these elevated events?
They're going to have any ability that anybody else does once they earn their PGA Tour status going forward. There's going to be nothing holding them back from being able to do so. That I assume, if has not been made clear, are details that will be made clear to you guys going forward.
Kathy Bissell, Ponte Vedra Reporter.
Jordan, you've won a variety of tournaments during your career. Looking forward over the next 10 or 12 years, do you have certain tournaments you'd like to win in that time span, other than majors, which we know you want to win?
Other than the majors? Riviera is maybe a top 3 course in the world for me. I'd love to win there just because I love that place so much, and it's one of the best tournaments of the year. That's the first one that comes to mind. I'd love to win the Players, but I kind of put that in the major category. I'd love to win a Ryder Cup over in Europe, but that's 12 guys, not just one. So that would be, as I look to next year, those are 3 events outside the majors that I'll highlight that I'd love to win.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay, with Yahoo.
Jordan, following up on what Ryan said earlier about having the best players play together at the best tournaments, it's an obvious conclusion to draw. Why has it taken so long? Why did it take this kind of existential threat to get to this point?
I think, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what else could have provoked it, or it's almost like things have been pretty good. Golf's been good. Right when Tiger's dominance, he ends up injured, isn't playing for a little while. He comes back and he wins Tour Championship and then the Masters. You have new media rights deals around the same time. COVID hits, not good for anybody. Golf numbers go up. It's been in a good place. It's almost like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. And it wasn't broken. It's just now seems like a really good time to look to make some kind of a change. Also, I think, with the reserve situation, COVID, having to have those, and then they get rebuilt up by markets being built back up and PGA Tours, a lot of their separate business entities being really successful, they get a situation where they can bump all these and continue to move this direction. So I think the timing just made sense, and it was also provoked a little bit. To be honest, yeah, I don't know.
Great. Doug, one last question.
Little off topic, but if you,
thank you.
When you look at, and I'm sure you watch the NCAAs or pay attention to college and amateur golf, are you? Can you identify a can't miss kid coming through? And did you think of yourself as one?
I really didn't know on me, the second part of that question. I had confidence in myself, but I just really, it was so different than the way I look at things now. I was just, I'll go play there next week. Okay, now I'm going to play there next week because that's what I got into. Okay, I'll play there. I'll just play the best I can, and I'll just go play. There's something so great in that you lose a little bit of as you start getting into where you pick schedules, you play the same places over and over again. Not everything's new anymore. I think that if I looked back at, say, Patrick Cantley's class, my class after, so these, within a year above or below our class, I could have probably predicted 5 or 6 guys that are out here that have been out here for 5 to 8 years. But I also would have probably said there was 5 others that I thought would be out here that aren't, that were just as talented, and you'd have thought would make it too. And I don't know what the difference ends up being there. But a lot of times it's injuries, but sometimes it's not. And I would say if I look right now, that kid that's a freshman from Vanderbilt that won the NCAAs looks like it's going to be something else out here. And then, I could look at Pearson Coody and the way that he stepped into he won the Web.com event second or third time out there. So you start to see these you look for like that easy transition when you get exemptions into the big events, and you just step up and you just start playing, and that's normally a good tall tell. But just from college events or amateur events, I'd have been wrong just as often as I was right.
All right. Thank you, Jordan. Good luck this week.
Thanks.
We'll let you go.